Welcome to Hot Springs Village Inside Out, a weekly podcast where Hot Springs Village, Arkansas is the star. Join me, Randy Cantrell, and my co-host Dennis Simpson as we discuss the history, facts, people, places, events, lots more surrounding Hot Springs Village, Arkansas. Visit the website at hotspringsvillageinsideout.com. Today's show is brought to you by Central Arkansas's favorite radio station, KVRE. Find them on the dial at 92.9 FM. Stream them live at kvre.com. Donald Langston is the secretary of the HSV Anglers Club. Don joins us today to talk about fishing inside Hot Springs Village, Arkansas.
That's right, another episode. And this time, and for me, Randy, it seems like every episode gets a little more interesting. And maybe
people
that's
do
just
know
because,
it's another episode, by the way. You get that, don't you? They've already
so you're
play.
saying when they hit play, they're thinking, okay, there ought to be a new episode.
Oh, well, I think. It depends on their IQ, but I think.
Oh, yeah. Well, our listeners and watchers obviously know. Well,
Right.
What they don't know is Don Langston. Don Langston is the secretary of the fishing club. Is that right?
That is correct.
The Anglers Club is what
The
they
Anglers
call it.
Club, HSV Anglers Club.
And Don, thanks for joining us today. I know it's been kind of a crazy schedule thing.
Okay, yes, it has.
Well, we appreciate you hopping on with us here real quick.
He had to pull his boat out. He had to pull his boat out of the lake to get ready for this. So, by the way,
Ouch, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, when you messaged me, I was in the process of, I'd been fishing on Cortez, and I was in the process of loading my boat
Oh,
on
goodness.
the trailer to come home.
Well, I want to jump into that here in just a minute. I want to, before we talk about the club is going to have a fishing tournament. So let's talk about that first. Tell me about the tournament.
Okay. Well, the Anglers Club actually has 14 tournaments a year.
In Hot Springs Village?
No, they have 7 in Hot Springs Village and 7 outside the village. We have 2 tournaments a month, typically from March to November. Actually, we have 3 tournaments in May and only 1 in November. It starts to get too cold in November.
Sure.
But we start in late March. Our first tournament will be March 18th in the village. Now, the village tournaments, because the club has gotten large enough that except for Lake Balboa, it's awkward to try to everybody fish on a single lake. We fish what we call wild card tournaments when we fish in the village, in that you can fish on any lake in the village. Okay. The Anglers Club is a catch and release club. So there are an angler and a co-angler in each boat. The co-angler is drawn at random. So an angler never knows who's going to be fishing with from one tournament to the next. The way you count your fish is when you catch a fish, you measure it. Okay, and that measurement is verified by that co-angler. Now, if the co-angler catches a fish, the measurement is verified by the angler, and it's recorded. And then at the end of the tournament, you turn in your what we call catch cards that shows each fish you caught and their length. And that is what we have a table that translates the lengths into ounces. Okay, and you measure to the nearest quarter inch. And so that table is set on quarter inch intervals. And so whoever has the greatest ounces is the winner. In each, we have 2 divisions. The co-angler is not competing against an angler. He's competing against the other co-anglers. So we have 2 divisions. So you have 2 winners, an angler and a co-angler.
I'm fascinated. I apologize just for a minute. I'm fascinated because, and Randy, I don't know what it says, but you apparently have to have, somebody trustworthy to watch your angler is what it sounds like to me, right?
Well, to watch angler and co-angler. Well, that's just to verify it. The tournaments are fun.
Right.
We're not playing for money.
Yeah.
That's another thing, that you're only playing for points. at the end of the year, they have an angler of the year and a co-angler of the year. First, second, and third place, you get a little plaque, and that's all you're fishing for.
Right.
There's no money involved. But they still get kind of competitive.
Yeah, I was about to say that doesn't keep them from being competitive. Yeah, right. I'm sure. But
now, how large is the club, Don? How many members?
Now, about 95 members.
Really? Okay. I find it fascinating. I had no idea there was a co-angler. I had no idea there was any of that.
Typically the angler is the boater. He has the boat.
Yeah, but to be fair, for those that don't know, let's talk about golf for 10 seconds. If you claim you have a hole in one, you got to have a witness. Right. It's not like, so I get it. I mean, it makes sense. You got to have some form of validation to say you're really who you are.
Yeah, and we do it this way, so it's catch and release. So you catch the fish, you measure it, and you put it back.
Right. Well, tell us what you want about the club. So give us a little bit of backstory about the club, and then we can dive more deeply if you want into the tournaments. Well, and by the time this airs, by the way, this is going to be airing. People are going to be watching this on the 18th. So today, as you're watching this, audience, the tournament is underway.
And where will it be, Don?
The first tournament's a wild card, so it's in the village. So the people will be fishing various lakes. Yeah. Now, the one thing about the wild card tournament is after you complete, you have to bring all the cards to a central point, and that's on the Lake Coronado ramp because we discovered that is the most central area. If you're fishing Balboa or Cortez or DeSoto, that's the most central place to get to. The tournament ends, whatever the end time is, you've got 20 minutes to get your cord in. And if you don't get it in 20 minutes, then it doesn't count.
Wow. Okay.
Do you have issues with people kind of wanting to flood one particular lake, or do y'all even manage that, or it's just?
I tell you what, some of the really competitive people will spend a week or the week or so before the tournament fishing various lakes to decide which one seems to be the best.
Of course they do.
Right then.
Because
they all don't fish the same. Sometimes the fishing is better on one lake than it is another.
Right. Well, they don't have day jobs. They can go look anytime. I mean, they're not like me and you, Randy. They don't have to work. There's somebody coming by right now in a little John boat. I'm like, what?
I respect it. I mean, if you're going to do it right. Be prepared.
Yeah. Well, all of our tournaments are during the week. We never fish on the weekend.
Was that like just a credo or a pro mat or what? I mean, just.
Well, most of the people are retired. The lakes tend to be more crowded on the weekends.
So they're really crowded. Yeah,
we decide why should we mess with that?
Yeah. Who wants to be caught up with all those jet skis?
Okay, so this tournament, got to be a member of the Anglers Club?
You have to be a member of the Anglers Club, and you have to sign a waiver.
Okay.
And Don, I need to let you know that Randy and I made a massive mistake when we first started this podcast. We said that we're going to be hyper local because it was just going to be around this area. We were naive and misled. People from all parts of the world have asked and called and messaged and so forth. So let's act like for the moment, we're not in Hot Springs Village, Arkansas, the center of the known universe. And what does it take to fish in Arkansas? What do I have to do? Is there a class? Is there how would I go about doing this?
Okay, well, first of all, you have to have a fishing license. If you fish on any water in the state of Arkansas, you have to have a fishing license.
And technically, we're a private community, but our water is public, technically.
That is true. We are a private community. These are private lakes. Game and Fish considers them private lakes. But the water still belongs to the state of Arkansas, and you still have to have an Arkansas fishing license. And the Arkansas game warden can still, and do occasionally, you'll see them on the lake, check. And of course, any of our policemen can too, because it's a state law, so our policemen can enforce it as a state law.
And if I'm going to get a fishing license, I can go where?
Well, of course, Walmart. The quickest way is to do it on the Game and Fish website. You can buy it. You can have it on your phone until they send it to you to show or print it out, however you want to.
And that's going to cost me how much, Don?
I don't know. I haven't bought one. I'm 73 years old, so I haven't. When I turned 65, I bought a permanent license, and I haven't bought one since.
Yeah, he took my thunder. I was going to say, after 65, you can buy one and never have to buy it again.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm not buying mine until May, because I'm turning 65 in May, Don. So
yeah, I don't take
advantage.
I'm sorry, I haven't bothered to look, so I really don't know.
I mean, but we're not talking big money here.
Oh, it's like $30 or something. It's like 30.
Yeah, it's something like $30, $35.
Yeah.
Depending on whether you get your trout stamp or not.
Okay, so tell us about the club. So I've got to be a member of the club. I've obviously got to have a fishing license. So what is me getting into the club? What does that involve?
The club, basically, we fish. That's part of it. The fellowship and all the fishing. We work with Brad to do some lake improvements, like putting fish habitat in the lakes, or we've helped with construction of piers and fishing docks and various things like that. We work with the Parks and Recreation. We're the primary sponsor of the Kids Fishing Derby that's part of the 4th of July activities. We had 124 kids last year.
Wow. And this is usually the weekend of 4th of July. Is it like the Thursday or Friday before, or what?
It was a Saturday, I believe, last year, and it's going to be on July the 2nd, a Saturday this year. The way that works, that's at Cortez, Lake Cortez, the pavilion area there where the ramp is. We put a net across the inlet there where just to the left of the ramp. And then the game and fish comes out and stocks catchable size catfish. Usually, if we have it on Saturday, they'll probably do it Friday morning.
Something tells me that the kids have a blast catching these, right?
Let me tell you, last year, the kids were lined up. There was probably, when we started at 7:30, there was probably 50 or 60 there already. And they just started catching catfish right and left. I mean, they just had a great time. We provide prizes. We weigh the fish about every 15 or 20 minutes. We call and give away a couple of rods and reels to the biggest fish caught during that time period. And we always have door prizes. So almost everybody leaves with something. That's one of our big events. We also sponsor a team tournament on Lake Balboa that's open to any property owner or their guest. And that's, I think this year it's on the 3rd, which is a Sunday. It'll be on Lake Balboa. We usually have 15 to 20 teams. And, it's usually, we have a lot of father-son or brothers or husband-wife teams.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask, and Randy, you brought it up, you need a license and you need to be in the club, but do you have to have a boat?
No. But like I said, we have co-anglers, so you can join and be a co-angler. And you do not need a boat.
But you need to know how to drive one probably, but yeah.
For safety reasons, yes.
Yeah.
In case something happened to the boater, it's really usually the boater will ask you that, and if you can, he'll show you some rudimentary. Here's how you start it.
Sure.
Here's how you get it in. In case something happened to the boater.
Cheap way to get a boating lesson, right? And a boating safety lesson too. I'm sure.
It's not a complete boating lessons, but it's the basics.
It's sufficient. So now you said every lake, but I don't think you meant Lago. Because I'd love to go fish on. No,
that's the only lake you can't fish on. Every lake that you can fish on.
Okay. Yeah. But so there are roughly half of them here in the village, and we're talking Cortez, DeSoto, Balboa, the smaller lakes, Coronado, but like the smaller lakes, like.
We frequently have people fish Pineda, or we've had people that fish Isabella.
Interesting.
It's not often.
Where do we fish outside? We go into, is it Nimrod, or you go to Arshtal?
Okay, now when we fish outside the village, there are only 2 lakes we fish on typically. We fish Ouachita
Mm-hmm.
and Hamilton.
Okay. And for those that don't know, that's part of the Tri-Lakes area around Hot Springs. That is Ouachita, which is surrounded completely by national forest and by the not the Coast Guard, but the my brain's not working today.
I'd help you, but I can't.
No, it's the people
But
that
the Ouachita Mountains, or
they're surrounded by the Ouachita Mountains, but you can't build within 500 feet of the lake because
the land around the lake is owned by the Corps of Engineers.
The Corps of Engineers. I'm sorry, duh. So the Corps of Engineers got Lake Ouachita, 30,000 acres ish, something like that. And then beyond the dam ends right there at Blakely Mountain Dam. And when it exits there, which people catch huge stripers all the time.
That's actually where Lake Hamilton starts.
Exactly. That's what I would have called it, the Ouachita River, but it's actually, it's
Lake
actually
Hamilton.
where Lake Hamilton
you
starts.
drive right up there. And if you're in Lake Hamilton, you can.
And Lake Hamilton is a flood controlled lake by Entergy, just like Lake Ouachita is. And they both dump into Lake Catherine, which I don't know, interesting, a lot of interesting places there. So where's the best place to fish in the village?
In the water.
Hard question. Do what?
The water.
In the water.
In the water. In the water.
All of the lakes have fishing, and at various times, one lake will be better than the other. The difficulty with the village lakes is that they were stripped bare when they were built. Mm-hmm. So there are no natural habitat in the lakes, and except for what has been placed there by the fishing clubs or whoever. Sometimes some of the landscapers will place trees and stuff in the lake, but they seek permission from Brad or the lake manager before they do that. And the fishing clubs do that. We really haven't been able to do it the last couple of years because of COVID and all, and trying to get the people together. But we're going to try this year to get some out. If you go to Hot Springs Village Anglers Club's website, there are lake maps there with waypoints of where we've put brush before.
Really?
And the website is hsvanglers.com.
Okay. Well, I've seen one of our properties is Toro Del Mar, which is the Madrid townhouses over here on the north side of Lake De Soto. And when the water's down, I can see where there's piles of concrete blocks, and you could tell where somebody had put Christmas trees, I guess, before.
Yeah.
And how long does that last? I mean, is that
cedar trees, Christmas trees, stuff like that, 3 or 4 years.
Really?
Cedar might last a little longer than that, but now we've tried to put artificial habitat in plastic that would last indefinitely, but it doesn't seem to be as effective.
Huh. So, and now we're basically making, pardon the term for those uninitiated, and I'm using a poor term, but maybe a fish house or a refuge that they can go to when they're spawning or when they're
basically you're creating a habitat or a safe area for the bait fish. And so the smaller fish will tend to congregate in it. If you ever go to say Bass Pro Shop and look at their aquarium, they'll have tree branches and stuff in there. If you ever look, you'll see the little brim way back in the middle of where those trees are. It's setting up right next to it. Well, the bass like to be in cover like that too, but they don't always get way back into it. They'll be on the edge.
Yeah.
They'll be on the edge waiting to ambush one of those little fish if it happens to dart out.
Well, we were talking with Brad, and I was trying to get a feel for all the dynamics he has to juggle, and he had mentioned one time, he said, I'm sure the fishermen of the village would love for me to fertilize. And I'm like, well, okay, yeah, why? Well, apparently you get an algae bloom. The fish love the algae bloom, but you're swimming in murky water or algae water. And, the swimmers want to see crystal clear water and think, oh, it's so healthy. It's crystal clear. And tell me about that. Is that the story?
Okay. Well, what that does is the algae, and if you fertilize that creates the food for the algae, And the small bait fish, that's what they feed on. And the more food they have, the more they reproduce, and the more bait fish there is. The more food there is, the bigger the bass or crappie or other fish will grow. And, it's just a chain. If there's more food, everybody's healthier and reproduces more. And that's just kind of how it works. I can tell you, I've been to a few of the lakes, like Lake Atkins, not too far from here, in Atkins.
Up Highway 7. Yeah.
It's a lake managed by Game and Fish, and they fertilize it. It's got Florida strain bass in it, which is a strain of bass. They tend to be bigger and they grow faster. But they don't tolerate cold water. So there's a range limit to where you can stock them. Arkansas Game and Fish has put them in quite a few of the Arkansas lakes. They've put some in Ouachita in various areas. The biggest hope there is that they will mate with the native bass and produce a bass that will grow a little larger, but is more tolerant of the colder temperatures.
Well, Kendall, who was the one of the barbers at the West Gate,
right,
who unfortunately passed away just last year. I asked him one time when he was cutting this, and I said, "So, what about these hybrids? What about these hybrid fish? Are they good eating?" And in his typically incredibly dry Southern way, he said, "Well, if you take them and you fillet them just right, and you don't hit that red vein, and then you cut that red vein all the way out, and then you soak them for 2 days in buttermilk, and then you bread them up real good, and you fry them, they're great eating." And I'm like, well, I could have done that with cardboard. So some people go to extremes to try and make their fish good, but some are better eating than others. Would that be fair?
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure of that. Everybody says crappie are great, and that's all of those lakes have crappie in them. They are, since the village lakes don't have a lot of brush and all in them, and they are very clear. Crappie in the village lakes are difficult to catch and find. Well, they're difficult to find and catch, but the village lakes have some good sized crappie in them, because I have caught them fishing for bass, and I've caught 2.5 pound crappie.
Ooh.
And
big as your hand.
Yeah. So they're there.
Yeah. Well, Randy, is it time to move a little further back in this story and ask something a little bit more about fishing, you think?
Okay.
Yeah. Let's. Now,
I was talking about the club. We stopped at the 4th of July stuff. We also have a military fishing day, and that's coming up in June, where we take 25 to 30 active duty enlisted men from the Little Rock Air Force Base out fishing on Lake Balboa. And then after we take them fishing, we have a barbecue lunch for them there at the pavilion and give them prizes.
Is this all funded by the anglers, or how is the funding?
Yeah, we look for donations, and we were lucky enough this year to find one of the executives at what used to be General Dynamics.
Yeah, whatever.
Lockheed or something.
Yeah.
Donated enough money to cover all of the prizes and the food.
But basically, this is maybe a March through November thing. That's basically the season for fishing.
Yeah, we have meetings February through June. We skip July and August. We don't have tournaments in July and August unless we do open team tournaments.
Yeah.
And then we have tournaments again September, October, and one in November. We have meetings we have meetings every month except January, July, and August.
Okay. Well, so
And we meet on the first Tuesday of every month, 7 p.m. at the Coronado Center.
At the Coronado Center. And now, and let me remind everybody, hsvanglers.com. Is that correct?
hsvanglers.com.
And is there a calendar there that will show us what all the events are upcoming?
Absolutely. There's a schedule of events. Another event we got coming up on March the 26th is a fishing seminar.
Well, you took the words out of my mouth. I was about to ask, what if I'm a novice, am I going to feel out of place? How do I learn to fish?
And that's what that seminar is geared to. And it's also geared to trying what it takes to catch fish on village lakes. Unfortunately, it was originally limited to 60 people. The first week that sold out, and I found another person or two to help us with it. So we were able to bump it up to 70, which they sold out from the waiting list. So it is sold out. And the way we run that seminar is we do have speakers. Obviously, if we just had speakers, we could have had several hundred because we have it at the auditorium at the Coronado Center. But what we do is we have a table with 6 to 8 people in it. And we have moderators at each table so that the attendees, as the speaker goes through stuff, will stop, and the moderator at the table can demonstrate it to the attendee. So there's more hands-on. Also, each attendee gets a pack of baits that is probably close to the value of what they paid for their ticket, and the ticket costs $20. And we do that. We've been doing that every year. We do that in conjunction with, well, it was recreation, now it's Parks and Recreation.
Right. Of the attendees, I mean, it's number one, I would think it'd be a great way to get introduced to the lakes in the village and the club.
Absolutely. Brad Meredith is one of the speakers. So he gives an overview of the village lakes and where each one is and how big they are and what kind of fish have been stocked. And he also kind of gives you a rundown of, in the last time they did electrofishing, what they saw on that lake.
Right. Yeah. He explained some of that when we had him on the show. You know, Don, we get emails and stuff from people from the East Coast, the West Coast, up north, down in Florida. And it's been interesting to us. You know, we hear quite frequently from people who have never been to the village, but they're intrigued and they're looking at it as a potential place to move. In some cases, they're already retired and they're living somewhere, but cost of living in Arkansas is appealing and whatnot. So for those people that aren't familiar with it, what kind of fish are we talking about? We've mentioned a few different kind of species of fish, but what's in the lakes, and are some species more in one lake and not so much in another, or what does that look like?
Well, I don't know about some species being more in one lake than another. Outside of grass carp, and there may be some of our lakes that have more grass carp in them than others because there's been a weed control problem and they've been stocked heavily. Yeah. All of our lakes have catfish, and most of the catfish are either blue catfish or channel catfish. You will find some others, but mostly they're either blue or channels. And we have some good sized catfish in our village lakes. We also have crappie, and we also have bass, both black bass, largemouth, and spotted. We don't have any smallmouth in the village.
Brad, I'm sorry. Brad had noted that the grass carp had been put in by the Game and Fish. Is that correct?
Not entirely. Okay. When they had the problem with hydrilla on Lake Balboa, they stocked they meaning the POA stocked quite a few. Oh. And the POA has stocked grass carp when they've had problems in lakes.
Hmm.
And typically, game and fish wouldn't stop grass carp. Usually, the POA would do that as a control for certain invasive weeds.
Are they good eating?
No.
I didn't think so. But Randy, just down the way, there's a lady who has a boat dock that feeds them. And oh my Lord, the water literally just boils. It'll be like she has 8 and 10 pounders. They look like small children.
Oh, some of them may be bigger than that. And I suspect she may have a lot of common carp and catfish.
Huh.
Because the common carp are in all of the lakes too. And because they were in most of the creeks and all when the lakes were dammed up. And catfish would, sure she has some catfish coming if she's feeding.
Yeah. So and just being nosy, you said that like lakes like DeSoto and all the lakes that were built, I mean, they just bulldozed them flat and they pushed whatever debris they had to the bottom, I guess.
There might have been some areas where they put a bunch of logs or something that piled up in a deep area that they knew was going to be a very deep area of the lake. But typically, no, they left nothing. Now, we put brush in, and we hope that shoreliners at least will allow part of the shoreline to allow the water willow to grow, because water willows are great cover for small bait fish.
Really?
Wood ducks get in them. I mean, if you're going around the lakes and a bunch of wood ducks jump back up, they've probably been in the middle of a bunch of water willows.
Huh.
So that's one thing that is, we would like to see people allow the water willows to grow some.
Well, can you plant them? Could I go out in my yard and plant water willows?
I don't think Brad would be happy with you.
Yeah.
If they're going to do something like that, that's something that ought to be done under the supervised
coordination, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. Randy, I apologize. I had to step out just a minute. Did I interrupt your question?
No, you're good. Okay, Don.
No, I kept on talking.
No, Don. Okay, Don, tell us this isn't fishing, but this is somewhat personal. So tell us about life before you got to the village.
Okay, like I said, I was born in Sherman, Texas. I grew up mostly in San Antonio, graduated from high school in San Antonio, Highlands High School in San Antonio. Went to college back up in Sherman at a little college called Austin College.
In Sherman?
In Sherman, yes. Austin College, and got my bachelor's. Actually, I got a BA in math. Most people wonder it. How do you get a BA in math? I thought that was a BS. But anyway, not at Austin College. They were a liberal arts college. Then I went from there, did some graduate work, graduate studies at Texas A&M. And then I went to work for Occidental Petroleum in Houston. And then I ended up in Memphis working for Shearing Plow, which they were a pharmaceutical and consumer products company. I was with them for 25 years.
Was that during the time they owned Maybelline?
Yes, when I was there, they owned Maybelline.
I did a lot of printing for the fine folks at Maybelline, and I remember the headquarters being Shearing Plow in Memphis, and I thought, yeah.
Yeah, I was there when they owned Maybelline. They owned Dr. Scholl's. Of course, the big money maker was Shearing Pharmaceuticals.
And what did you do? What did you do for them?
I started a career in data processing. I worked in their data centers. I ended up running all of the data centers in the U.S. I got transferred shortly after 9/11. I transferred up to the New Jersey. New Jersey was where corporate headquarters was. That's where Shearing had originally been based. That's where corporate headquarters was. And I was there for 3 years. We decided that
3 long
years. We had a good time, but we were ready to come south.
Yeah, of course.
especially when we got 2 foot of snow one Easter. It's just a bit much. But opportunity came up to retire early and move back south, and we did. We haven't looked back.
And you discovered the village when and how?
We discovered the village while we were living in Memphis. We went to St. Jude golf tournament one year, and since that was in July, in an effort to get out of some of the heat, we went into one of the air-conditioned tents, and Cooper had a booth there. And we got to talking to them. They said, "Hey, come over and visit us. 3 days free, golf free." So we did. And
90-minute tour that's never quite 90 minutes.
Yeah, we took the tour. Yeah. Nice real estate agent, everything. We said maybe. Looked at the newspaper, saw all the resale lots and the price on them, and I said, Called up the real estate person that took us around and said, "Hey, I think we're interested in one of these resale lots. You want to work with us on that?" And she says, "I can sell you anything." And even though she was a Cooper agent, she sold us a resale lot. And actually, we bought a resale lot on Balboa Golf Course.
Oh.
But while we were in Memphis there, we came over frequently.
Yeah.
Because we'd come over long weekends and all, because it's not that far. And we always stayed on Lake DeSoto. And we decided, boy, we really like living on a lake better. So we went back and traded in our lot on Lake Coronado. And when we retired, we built a house here, and here we are on Lake Coronado.
Let me interrupt for a second. Randy, you need to know this. One of the things Cooper would do is the original, developer, the only developer, I guess, to be fair, but Cooper would sell you a property. And then if you changed your mind and said, I don't think we want to be on the golf course, they would give you full value credit for the trade up for another property that you bought. So you weren't stuck with 2 properties or whatever. But you're struggling on Lake Cortez, right? Yeah, it's a struggle. Yeah, no.
Yeah. Well, since we bought a resale lot, that didn't count.
Oh, really?
When we made an offer on the lot on Lake Coronado, we said, "Hey, you got to take our lot on Lake Balboa." And the real estate agent says, "Well, there's no way these people are, But we looked there and said, "This is an estate sale. These kids have had this on the market for 5 years now. They want their money." Sure enough, they took it.
Oh, wow.
And what year are we talking, Don?
I can't remember. We bought the lot probably in 98.
Okay.
And
we started building. We started building the house here in early 2004, I guess.
Now you're on the south side or the north side?
We're on the back of a cove in off Feniza Way.
Okay.
So that's basically what you would call the south side.
Yeah, but you're in a real cove. You're way back up.
Yeah, we're
by the dam.
Not on the main lake.
Yeah. Well, and an absolutely beautiful area too.
Yeah, and we didn't go to Cooper to build a house either. We went with a guy named Bill Reed. I don't think he's building anymore, but he did a good job. We were happy with him.
He actually built some houses up on Valina that they had $50,000 in site prep before they could even start putting lumber up. And he was really good at building on uneven surfaces. He was really
because we have a steep lot.
Yeah. Well, as most of them are in the village that are on the lake, right?
Yeah.
Well, Randy, what have we missed besides the lightning round, my friend?
I don't know. Don, you tell us. Anything that we didn't hit on that, from an angler's perspective, you'd like to hit on? Anybody
that's interested in joining the club, you're always welcome to come to one of the meetings. They're open. Anybody can come to the meeting. So join. Membership applications are on the website.
Yeah, we'll put links to that up. What'd you say?
I said, how much are dues?
The dues are $35 annually. A portion of which goes to lake improvements, I think. $5 of that absolutely goes to lake improvements, and usually a little more.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Well, Don,
all right, we got a fun segment here. This is quick and easy and painless, Don. So humor me, play along here. Hamburger, tacos, or pizza?
Hamburgers.
Beaches or woods?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Beaches or woods?
Beaches.
Texting or talking?
Talking.
Favorite city in the U.S. besides Hot Springs Village?
Oh boy. Destin.
Okay, there you go.
Notice how he didn't say anything about New Jersey? And
Yeah,
it didn't even cross his mind.
He's a Southern boy.
Hey, we had a great time in New York. We went and saw
Really?
plays and all that. And while we lived there, we took the time to go up to Maine and see the colors and all that kind
There
of
you
stuff.
go.
But
no. After 3 years, you'd had enough.
I had enough.
Right.
My wife had more than enough. Too.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure. Well, come on, you're Southern kids. Do you have a nickname?
Yeah.
Do you have a nickname?
in Arkansas. We're born and raised in Arkansas.
Well, there you go.
Well, did you even own a snow shovel in New Jersey?
He did after he got there. Did you own a snow shovel when you got to New Jersey? I said, no, but you bought one as soon as you got there that first winter.
No, we bought a townhouse, and so they had a service that took care of all that for us.
Yeah.
Smart. Yeah. Well, listen, we knew you were smart when you didn't buy from Cooper and you looked in the paper and you saw what the resale lots went for. Do you have a nickname?
No.
Shoot.
Just call me Don. I mean, how much?
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Okay. You have an hour to do nothing. What are you going to do?
Read.
Oh, well, I was expecting you to say fish, but
I did too,
look at you. Look at you.
Well,
First job. What was your very first job, Don?
Very first job. Boy, what? Janitor at a church.
Ditto. I was too. I was like 14.
Yeah,
I was looking up child labor laws because I didn't think the child labor law covered that kind of thing. But yeah.
Yep.
Do you play a musical instrument?
Nope.
We had to start asking because we discovered that John Paul plays guitar, and we had multiple conversations and we didn't have a clue about that. First concert. What's the first concert you ever went to?
Jerry Jeff Walker.
Oh, now. Hello, Bill.
Oh, wow.
Now we're talking.
Yeah.
There's a Texan. Yeah, I like it. Okay, I got to ask. So while you're in New York, best show, best whatever you went to see in New York when you guys lived up there, what was it?
Aida,
really?
I mean, a lot of people didn't like it. It was one of Elton John's, but I really enjoyed it.
Well, you didn't flinch, man. You know exactly what was.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Boom.
I've seen a lot of the shows. We went and saw lots of them. I enjoyed Chicago, too. That was another one that was great.
Favorite sports team?
Well, it's not the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, well, I'm not shocked.
Oh,
Aggies?
I don't know.
Are you an Aggie fan?
Yeah, I'm an Aggie fan. I'm also an Arkansas fan.
Yeah, well, we won't hold that against you. I'm a Sooner fan.
Yeah.
Dennis is a Razorback guy. Okay, dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Do you have a dog?
No.
Cake or pie?
We had one for years, but
what kind of dog did you have?
Boston Terrier.
Yeah.
But when she died, well, we just decided we'd had enough.
Yeah.
We were traveling and all, and we just didn't want the commitment.
I get it. Cake or pie?
Pie.
What's your favorite article of clothing?
A T-shirt.
All right, last one. Favorite quote?
Favorite quote? Boy, I don't know. I don't know. That's a hard one for me.
All right. I'm gonna ask you another one because you said read. So what's the last book that you read?
Well, I just,
Or a favorite book? What's your favorite book?
oh, Lord of the Rings.
Really?
Yeah, the whole trilogy. Yeah.
Okay. I wouldn't have guessed that either.
I
Dennis?
wouldn't, didn't have a clue.
This is why we do the lightning round, Don.
Did you ask him what the first concert was?
I did. Jerry Jeff Walker.
Oh, well, I'm sorry, man. I'm brain damaged. Yeah,
JJ Walker, man. Yeah.
Couldn't get any more Texas than that, right?
How many times have you seen Jerry Jeff? Did you see him? Did you see him more than once? Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of times.
I saw him a bunch when I was at LSU. He came through the Deep South a lot. Yeah. And I hated it when we lost him.
Yeah.
The guy was smooth, man. The guy was smooth. That's awesome. That's all I got, Dennis.
Well, that's all I've got too. We realized that we have deficits. We haven't really, and we've got it lined up, but we haven't had a show on golf. We haven't had a show on fishing. We've had real estate. We've had updates. We've had all this kind of stuff, but we'd never really had anybody from the anglers. So Don reached out, and man, I was more than happy to say, sure. Hey, yeah. And Don, as things come up, feel free to contact us, reach out, we'll help ring your bell for you and hopefully get more anglers.
Okay.
What would be your end zone? What would be perfect? Would you like to have 200 or 300 people in the anglers, or what?
No, I don't think we need 200 or 300 people in the Anglers Club.
No.
I mean, then you become a club that's very difficult to work with when you have tournaments and things like that. It's very difficult to manage. When you have more than 25 teams in a tournament, it really, we can handle it, but then it becomes a bigger administrative kind of thing. Then you got to get more volunteers involved in running things.
He's the secretary, Dennis. So
I'm just asking.
So that's it.
And and that's always the biggest problem you have is getting enough people that will do the administrative, the work in a club.
Right.
The support.
Do you need some extra people to tell tall tales? Y'all got enough fellas down there that are telling tall tales? Because Dennis might join you.
No, I just listen. I just listen.
Because most of the guys want to fish. They don't want to do all this other stuff, too.
Yeah. I
understand. Well, before they remodeled the waypoint here on Lake DeSoto, they had little bitty old, completely dried up, washed out pictures that you could barely tell, but there would be a man standing there holding a 65-pound catfish or bigger. And I don't know what they did with those pictures when they remodeled that, but I always thought, unbelievable. And anyway, we'll talk about that later. I was going to ask more lake dimensions and stuff, but I tell you what.
Hey, have you ever gone noodling before, Don?
No. I mean, some people are just,
I wouldn't do it, but I
wouldn't do it either.
I had to ask. So
let's back up. 5 Mile High View. Randy, do you want to describe noodling?
No, I'll let you. Or I'll let Don. I'll let
noodling is when a person that appears normal in every way will stick their finger or a digit into some catfish Charlie or something that smells like death eating a biscuit, and they'll go around the edge of the lake reaching up underneath the cove of things trying to find a big catfish, and they are noodling, and that catfish will bite on their thumb, and they will clamp underneath it with their fingers and grab that fish by the lip and typically bow them up so they can't find them too bad, and then throw them up on the bank.
Right.
Well, that's if they're throwable. If you watch the kind of noodlers I'm watching, I mean, they're getting 60, 70 pound catfish, man. And they're sticking their whole arm through the gills and
grabbing the gills and
doing this and trying to lift the thing out of the water. And I'm like, you gotta be crazy. You gotta be crazy.
And hoping it doesn't drown them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
the fish or the guy.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, I had to ask.
I told this to a friend of mine in Little Rock one time who was an educator, very intelligent lady. And I said, well, you can go noodling. And she said, what? And I told her what it was. She said, you're making that up. You're just pulling that out of your butt. That does not exist. I'm like, oh, don't it, darling. Oh, don't it.
Well, thanks to YouTube, you can go watch it to your heart's content, because I do.
But so there's not a noodlers club in the village is what I'm hearing, Don. Is that right?
Not that I'm aware of.
Don wouldn't be a member of it if they did have one.
No, I would not.
Don, would you entertain coming back on with us again sometime soon?
I could, and I
would
would.
love to have you.
Yeah, we
would love
appreciate
to
you
have
being on.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your time. And for Hot Springs Village Inside Out, I'm Dennis Simpson. He's Randy Cantrell, and that was Don Langston with the Anglers Club. Come back and see us again.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Hot Springs Village Inside Out, a podcast where Hot Springs Village, Arkansas is the star. Please subscribe to the podcast. You can do that by visiting our website, hsvinsideout.com, and tell a friend.